He earned his PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University in 2013 and has since contributed significantly to scholarship intersecting realism, liberalism, post-colonialism, and he also engages with questions of sovereignty, territoriality, justice, secularism, and sociology of non-Western international theorizing. Uh, he has also co-authored book called Nuclear South Asia, Keywords and Concepts, published by Routledge 2014, and also The Sovereign Lives of India and Pakistan, published by OUP in 2021. Uh, his articles appear in International Affairs, India Review, EPW, and he also frequently lectures at the Sushma Swaraj Institute of Foreign Services and contributes to the Indian dailies. So, welcome, Atul. Uh, we will have Professor Asmar Beg Saab also on the dais and Dr. Rahat Hassan. Please. She got mobile phone? Will
ठीक है it's all yours maybe एक बच्ची का अनाउंस किया तो उस बच्चे का भाई किसी का बैग एक्सचेंज हो गया है उसके अंदर मोबाइल रखा हुआ उस बच्चे का तो आप लोग अपने अपने बैग्स देख लीजिए कहीं बैग एक ही तरह का कहीं आपने गलती से कोई दूसरा बैग तो नहीं ले लिया कहीं भी रखा होगा चाय के वक्त तो ज़रा देख लीजिए और फिर उस बच्चे का फ़ोन देखिए सो इट्स ऑल फ्लोर इज योर्स
Shall we begin? Okay, wonderful. I want to thank Professor Asmar Beg for the invitation, Dr. Rahat, colleagues over here, senior colleagues, great opportunity to be here. And I understand that we have PhD students and young faculty who've just begun teaching political science or international relations. They're also here. How many of you are still pursuing a degree, either master's or PhD? Wonderful. And how many of you are done with a PhD? Colleagues I know, but others done with your PhD. Wonderful. Okay. So and how many people are political science here? Okay, wonderful. How many of you are interested in IR? Oh, wonderful. That, all of this makes me feel very glad. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually take up on the mandate and the exhortation that Professor Beg has given to us this morning. And that mandate and that exhortation is that it is okay to critique, and it is important that we do critique. It is important that we identify the lacunae, the gaps in the dominant manifestation of a discipline, but we need to go beyond it, right? We need to take the next step, and the next step is this will take some time to get adjusted. I will get used to it. The next step is to see how we can actually generate new knowledge. That new knowledge ought to reflect the concerns that led us to the critique of existing knowledge, right? So if we are concerned about Eurocentrism, about Western domination, about concepts and theories, all of it emerging from the West, if we are concerned about those things, and quite frankly, they're not very important to me, but in case we are concerned about them, then we should figure out how do we go beyond critique, right? One of the great challenges of post-colonial theory, and one of the great dilemmas of post-colonial theory is that it has done a wonderful job of critiquing that, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, but it doesn't have a a blueprint for what to do next, which is positive theorizing, right? So what I'm going to do today is two things. In the first, for about roughly first part of our interaction, which will go on for about as long as the whip has been cracked here for. Uh, Half of our conversation is going to be about the fundamentals of the discipline, right? The nuts and bolts of the discipline. And the other half will build upon the nuts and bolts of the discipline to illustrate what constitutes good work and how we can build upon the good work that has already been done. Now remember that explicitly we are not going to talk about Eurocentrism, post-colonialism, global IR, none of it. But I assure you that if you do not get bored and doze off, somewhere in the course of this lecture, if you don't do it, then I assure you that all of the concerns that animate us, that agitate us, that bother us, those concerns will get addressed as we progress into this conversation. So far, so good? Just give me a thumbs up, please. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, this is the plan for the conversation today. What I want to do is, I want to set out the ontology of IR. Big word, every single time I use a big word, I will tell you what I mean by it, so don't worry. But I will set out the ontology of IR. That's the first task that I will do. And by establishing the ontology of IR, I will draw your attention to the discipline's essential universality. That's the second big word that I'm using, and I'll tell you what I mean by universality as well. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. Why is this important? This is important because it will help us avoid some of the pitfalls of non-universalist knowledge forms, which are relativism, particularism, historicism, and culturalism. Again, each one of those terms, isms, I will tell you what I mean by them, so don't be bothered by them or put off by them at this stage. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. That's the first half of our conversation. The second half would comprise of examples, and through the examples I will show the ground on which we could build upon in responding to the challenges of post-coloniality, Eurocentrism, statism, and Delhi-centrism, all of these concerns that this particular course is confronting at this moment, right? So two things. First, theory. Second, illustrations of how theory relates to actual work. And we can have, I'm hoping, a discussion on how to build upon the work that has already been done, examples of which I will show to all of you. We're good so far? Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. This is just to make sure that you're not, especially after wonderful jalebi and pakodas and so on and so forth. So I'll keep sort of coming back to people from time to time. May I know your name, please? You in light blue shirt. Yes, I'm looking at you. Yes, what's your name? Arvind. Okay. So you're with me, Arvind? Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's launch into the first part, which is the claim that disciplines have ontologies. What is ontology? Ontology is a statement of, it's a study primarily of what exists. Ontology, ontos, existence. Ontology is the study of what exists, but in the context of this presentation, ontology refers to a statement about that irreducible dimension of social reality with which academic disciplines are concerned. The argument that I want to, the first proposition that I want to make before you is that each academic discipline across the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities, each academic discipline has an ontology of its own. It has a ground on which it stands. That ground, that ontology, is irreducible in the sense that no other discipline can rightly lay claim to that ground, and in that sense it is irreducible. Let's look at a few illustrations of this. Geography, academic discipline. Yeah, how many of you are interested in geography? Yeah, academic discipline, fundamentally concerned with space. Space is one of the central dimensions of all of our reality. I have just moved across space. Is there a mic that I can hold and move around with, Dr. Rahat, if it is possible, because then I'll just feel a little okay. So I've just moved across space. Yeah. Now you can't reduce space to something else unless you're being ridiculous and you sort of say, well, you know, when it comes to physics, space sort of starts dissolving into matter, and matter sort of becomes waves and particles and so on. But space, wonderful, that'll be perfect. But space is an irreducible reality of that human beings confront with. Space forms the basis of the ontology of geography, which is spatiality. Can you hear me? Can you hear me at the back? Oh, wonderful. Okay, this is much better. Right, so space, geography, spatiality. Time, temporality, history, wealth, money, economics, psyche, individual, collective, what we call the inner life of individuals and inner life of societies. Psychology, society, intersubjectively produced collectives, sociality, sociology, questions of governance, political science, right? In each one of these instances, and we can sort of, from the social sciences, we can move to the natural sciences. So for example, life. What is the academic discipline? Life. Biology, right? What is the ontology of physics, therefore? Matter. It's written right there, no? No, it isn't. Oh, it is written there. Okay. And so on and so forth, right? What is the ontology of chemistry, by the way? Reactions, elements, chemical reactions, and so on and so forth, right? Okay. So disciplines have ontologies. To say that disciplines have ontologies is to say that each discipline is concerned with a particular dimension of reality that human beings are concerned with. Okay? And that dimension of reality is irreducible in the sense that it cannot be reduced to anything else without losing its essence. Now you can study temporality as part of political science, but you're basically, you know, denying history of its turf. You know what I mean? And there's a pun there. I don't know if you paid attention to it. Turf, history, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's. Can somebody tell me what is the ontology of IR therefore? Okay, so one answer is nation states. That's the ontology of IR. Another one is statecraft is the ontology of IR. Okay. Policy, diplomacy is the ontology of IR. Okay. Any other? International structure is the ontology of IR. Yes? I'm sorry. All the entities that exist in the discipline of IR. Excellent. We are sort of beginning to move in that direction, because if you say nation state, it's quite possible that people within a nation state are concerned with the nation state. So we're not really dealing with international relations, are we? We're not, right? All the entities. What's your name again? Mohammed Saif. Wonderful. So all the entities that exist in the international domain. Let's build upon what Saif has said over here. Bit by bit, okay? So we know that IR is concerned with international relations. Two terms there, international and relations. You can render international relations. If you have to express it differently, you would say that it is fundamentally concerned with what I call TOPS. TOPS are territorially organized political societies. Now notice that I am not using nation states. Notice that I am not using sovereign states. I am using territorially organized political societies. I am calling them TOPS. International relations are concerned with relations amongst territorially organized political societies. The virtue, well, at least I think it's virtue. So let's say utility. The utility, you guys are also all participants, right? Oh, wonderful. Okay, so I will pay attention to you as well. From time to time, I will look up and feel, hold my head high. When I look here, I'll sort of, okay, excellent. So the utility of using TOPS is the following. That category, that term TOPS can apply to a whole range of political forms. You can use it to refer to a nation state, which is also a territorially organized political society, a city state, which is also a territorially organized political society, an empire, a tribal federation, just about any human collective. All human collectives are territorially organized. Even nomadic life is territorially organized in the sense that there is a limited geography within which it mobiles. There is a certain relationship with the territory that it has, right? It's not static, it is dynamic, all the same territorially organized, right? So that the utility of using TOPS as opposed to nation or state is that we can capture a much wider range of actors that constitute the international domain. Okay, so you can render it as relations amongst TOPS. TOPS can range from this to that. Now, each TOPS is a geopolitical entity. Two words there. Geo, geography, political, organization. Each TOPS is a geopolitical entity. But notice something. This term that comes partly from geography and partly from politics, it comes together and starts referring to something else. What does geopolitics refer to generally in our times? When you say that we are concerned with geopolitics, what are we really concerned with? With national interest? Acquiring land? What else? With borders? Relations between states, but just any kind of relations between states, political relations between states. I mean, if states are interacting, relations are going to be political, right? But there's something particular. So then we'll say geoeconomics, no? Edward Lutwak would sort of say geoeconomics. Strategic, oh, big word. What is, give me another word for strategic. Geopolitics, and I say, there's geopolitics in the world. What are you saying? There's power politics in the world, right? Questions of power, balance of power, those are the central questions. Okay, that's an aside. Each TOPS is a geopolitical entity. So the international refers to geopolitical multiplicity. What does it mean for there to be a number of TOPS coexisting, interacting? Coexisting, existing simultaneously, not peacefully. I'm just saying coexistence, exist at the same time. Number of TOPS coexisting, and not just coexisting, they are interacting. And what happens when entities coexist and interact? What is the product of interaction? Straightforwardly interdependence? Okay. Interconnectedness, yes. It starts with R, ends with S. Relationships, right? And therefore the ontology of IR, the empirical material that is represented in the concept of the international, which rests at the heart of IR, that empirical material is geopolitical multiplicity. Students of international relations are students who are fundamentally concerned with geopolitical multiplicity. Now, what does it mean to say that geopolitical multiplicity is the ontology of IR? Now, you recall what I said earlier. Ontology of a discipline is something that you cannot reduce to anything else, right? So, we ought to be able to say that geopolitical multiplicity is that dimension of human reality that you cannot reduce to anything else. Now, what's your name, ma'am? Nation state? Rifa. Now, Rifa would say, hey, professor, geopolitical multiplicity, you can break it down to individual nation states, right? Individual tops. So, of course, you can reduce it to individual states. The moment you reduce it to individual states, you are in the domain of political science, right? Okay. Now, this geopolitical multiplicity, or if you like, multiplicity of tops, and this is not a static multiplicity. It's not that these entities are just sitting there like on a map, 2D map, right? It's not a static multiplicity. It is a dynamic multiplicity. States are interacting, and those interactions are producing relations. In the word international, you have a hint to the idea of interaction. Interaction. Tops acting with tops, interacting. And tops are not just, dead entities. They're social entities. They're comprised of human beings. And so what you have is geopolitical multiplicity that is social as well. But look at this now. There is no evidence of all humans living within a single territorially organized political society at any point in human history. It has never happened. At least we don't have any evidence of it. Secular sensibilities, so if it offends you, just bear with me right now, okay? So evolution, right? Because it's come from evolution. Like generally, I sort of tell this to everyone, no, not secular, atheist. Yeah, so it's there that this is coming from. Human history gives us no evidence of the fact that all humans have lived within a single territorially organized political society. We've always been multiplicitous insofar as our political existence is concerned. Single species, always multiplicitous in terms of our political organization. And this is a fundamental reality of human existence. The international geopolitical multiplicity is the fundamental reality of human affairs. Space is a fundamental reality of human affairs. All of us individually have a consciousness of time. We live in the past, we fantasize about the future, and we struggle to live in the present, like many of you are right now, right? You've got brains. In brains, there are films going on about one side or the other. Some of you are still thinking about your jalebi, others are thinking about the tea that will happen at 5 p.m., right? So we are fantasizing about the future, we are living in the past, never in the present, but all the same, we are working with time at all points. All of us work with time, all of us work with space, all of us have a psyche, all of us are concerned with communal living, and all of us, whether we like it or not, are participating in and are impacted by this fundamental reality of geopolitical multiplicity. Human beings share in common this thing called the international. Human beings share in common this thing called geopolitical multiplicity. It is a common heritage. If we have IR, it is because we have geopolitical multiplicity, right? To say that there is a discipline of international relations is to say that there is this irreducible dimension of human reality called geopolitical multiplicity, which needs to be understood, which needs to be studied, which generates problems, and those problems need to be resolved, etc. We're good so far? Okay, so the last part that I want to sort of draw your attention to. Geopolitical multiplicity is a trans-historical and a trans-geographical reality. Across history, across geography, you're going to find something. Okay, what is universality? What is universality? To say that something is universal is to say what? Generalized and exist everywhere, two different things, but exist everywhere. Okay, yes. What's your name? Afreen. Okay, universal. Yes, Arvind? Acceptable to all, okay. Is irrespective of differences, okay. Something that applies to, which is universal. Yeah. Okay. So everywhere, all the other, right? Anything, yes, anything that is universal is that which applies to all in any domain, right? We are dealing with human reality, social reality. To say that something is universal in the realm of human beings is, of course, to say that it applies to all human beings. In this case, it must apply to all territorially organized political societies. Now, one condition that universality must fulfill, that it must be true across history and across geography. And we have now established that geopolitical multiplicity is a trans-historical and trans-geographical reality. So far so good? Thumbs up please. Okay, excellent. Now, so IR's ontology, geopolitical multiplicity can be unpacked. Can we unpack something? So let's just unpack this, but this is not really packed, but we can, we'll unzip this. So that's an act of unpacking. So we've unpacked. What have we unpacked? We're unpacking the ontology of IR. This ontology of IR can be expressed negatively and positively. A negative expression of IR's ontology is one of absence. How many of you have done an IR course? An IR theory course? You are aware, so if I say that IR's ontology can be expressed negatively, what do you think I am referring to? Excellent. What's your name? Uzma. Anarchy at the international level. What is anarchy? Absence of central authority. Absence. Some theories, oh, I've started using the term theory already. Okay, leave that aside, right? IR people, if you are doing an IR course, sometimes you'll sort of say the international domain is characterized by anarchy, which is to say the international domain is characterized by something that it does not have. It's extraordinary, isn't it? If, again, what's your name? Wonderful shirt there, right in front of Uzma. Yes, you. What's your name? Yes, you. Nasir. Yeah? If Nasir, I tell you, Nasir, your characteristic feature is that you're not Atul. You see how you're going to feel? Yeah? The fundamental reality of Nasir is that there is an absence of Atul in Nasir. It's extraordinary. And we live with this fundamental scandal. The international domain is characterized by the absence of sovereign authority. It's extraordinary. Have you ever asked yourself, how can you get away with a negative description of the fundamental reality that you're dealing with? Yeah? And we've got fantastic theories that are built upon this notion of anarchy. Anarchy, absence of rule. Anarchy, archy, monarchy, patriarchy, and so on and so forth, right? Diarchy, and so on and so forth, right? It's a scandal. It doesn't even occur to us to say international relations textbooks that, can your name? Nazir. Yeah? That Nazir is not Atul and that is his fundamental reality. It's extraordinary, right? But that is the negative ontology of IR. To say that there is an international domain is to say that there is a domain in which a higher authority does not exist, right? And this negative unpacking of IR's ontology is geopolitical multiplicity in anarchy. Here you sort of talk about relations among stops that do not recognize a higher authority. You can talk about governance in the absence of government. And I want you to, what's your name? What's your name? Adil. Okay, Aditya. Aditya, I want you to do hard work, which is to, yeah, rather than doing that, because that's like, that just, kills me, because I put in like 3 hours on a slide and you do this. That's not good, right? Okay, which is why there'll be no sliding of any sort going on here. Okay, law in the absence of unregulated enforcement, right? That's a negatively expressed ontology of IR. But there's a positive way of thinking about IR's ontology as well. And let's come to this. If you unpack IR's ontology positively, am I creating problems for you by moving from here to here, camera person? You're okay? Okay. IR's positive ontology would mean that international relations are not marked by some kind of a deficiency. It's not lacking in something. IR is not Nazir who's lacking in Atul, right? That's not the case. There is presence there. Ma'am, there's presence there, right? And what is the presence? They're not marked by deficiency. They are a consequence of geopolitical multiplicity. You think about international relations as not something that is characterized by anarchy or absence of government. You think about international relations as characterized by the consequences of geopolitical multiplicity, also known as the consequences of interaction, also known as international. What are the consequences of interactions? Relationship, right? This is a positive ontology of IR. You think about international relations and in terms of what is produced by geopolitical multiplicity rather than the conditions under which geopolitical multiplicity operates. It's a very different way of thinking about the ontology of IR, the thing that lies at the heart of the international itself. Okay. From this point of view, war, peace, conflict, cooperation, trade, flows, barriers, and so on and so forth, all of those things, they are just the norm of international relations. International relations, from this point of view, are not a domain in which somebody is waiting to form a world government. And I want you to pay attention to this. International relations is not a domain in which all that is lacking is peace activists. Because that is what the negative ontology of IR asks you to do. Oh, there's so much war going on, there is no government, which is why there are all kinds of problems. We need peace. No, we don't need peace. Peace is something that activists ka problem hai. Our problem is we need to understand what's going on. We are analysts, not activists. And it is so often the case that we start thinking like activists even though we are supposed to do analysis, right? Our job is first to understand why war persists rather than saying how can we build peace, right? And it's one way in which we sort of go in that direction is by taking hold of IR's positive ontology. Okay. International relations are a reality in their own right and not a problem that need to be solved by establishing a world government or an imperial hegemony. Some power needs to rule, or the United Nations must turn into a world government, etc. My uncle also does this. Doesn't exist. It's a fictitious thing, but I use my uncle to talk to my students about all kinds of fantastic notions that WhatsApp universities circulate, right? So that's where this is coming from. Okay. So what have we covered so far? We've talked about geopolitical multiplicity. We've talked about the two ways in which the ontology of IR can be unpacked, negative as well as positive. And now we are talking about the third element which is important, which is international relations can be unpacked in terms of two conditions: international relations. Within this term international, there is a sign to interactivity. And what is interactivity? The acting upon at least two entities each other. Two entities acting upon each other, what they are complicit in is interaction, right? So if you are a student of international relations, what you are fundamentally engaged with is the problem of interaction. Which is why if you study a single nation state in international relations, you're not studying international relations. You see what I'm trying to say here? We are students of interaction. We are not students of states. Political science is where you study states. Again, I'm not drawing a I'm not saying that political science or international relations are not related, okay? Kufr nahi karna. What I'm saying is that their academic disciplines are dealing with different ontologies, and we must be very, very careful here. The IR part of our discipline, if you want to sort of call it politics and international relations, the IR part of our discipline is concerned with interaction. It is concerned with interactivity, and a particular kind of interactivity, one that is geopolitical. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? Students of IR are students of interaction. I repeat, students of IR are students of interaction. May I know your name at absolute back, right hand side? Yes, what's your name? Muzammil. Muzammil, students of IR are students of what? Interaction, yeah? Just as one that happened between you and I. Yes? We are students of interactivity. And I'll repeat, we are students of interactivity. But we are not just students of interactivity. We are also students of the second component, relationality. Our discipline, or if you like, our field requires us to think geopolitically and sociologically. Relations are fundamentally sociological. Yeah? International relations are social relations amongst geopolitical entities, or if you like, relations produced by interactions amongst geopolitical entities that have a social foundation. I'm confusing you, I'm just playing with your head right now, so leave that aside. Students of international relations are students of interaction, Muzammil, and students of relations. Interactivity, that is geopolitical; relationality, that is. Thank you so much. Yeah, how many of you are beginning to be bored right now? Just be honest. If you're bored, I will work on you. I'll sort of make sure that you're not bored. Is anyone here who's sort of feeling bored? Okay. Anyone here who's not following me? Is there anything that is not clear so far? Is there anything that you want me to repeat? We're all on the same page so far? We're good? Okay. What's your name, my dear friend? Right behind you. Yes, right at the end. Salman. Okay. You're with me here, Salman? Okay. IR's subject matter is international relations. Professor, why do you keep coming back to international relations in one form, a second form, third form? Why can't you make your point and move ahead? I won't, because I want you to pay attention to my understanding of what is at the heart of IR. I repeat, my understanding of what is at the heart of IR. You don't have to agree with it. It's just a perspective. Have this perspective, see if it relates, if it resonates with you. If it doesn't, chuck it out, no problems, right? Okay. IR subject matter is international relations. This subject matter can be distilled down to at least one of the following three types of phenomena. IR subject matter, which is international relations, can be distilled down to at least one of these three phenomena. Interstate, I wanted to say intertops, but they will like, Professor, too many tops happening here, right? So interstate, interentity, whatever is the entity in international affairs, yeah, interstate or interentity, transnational, and systemic. I'm going to spend some time talking about this because it's very, very important that we get this right. Here's what I'm trying to say here. Anything that we call international relations, for the test of anything that is called international relations is that it must be reducible to at least one of the three types of phenomenon. An international phenomenon, an international development must either involve interactivity, transnationality or transboundariness, or it must have a systemic dimension. If what you're dealing with does not have at least one of them, then what you're doing is not IR. Okay? My perspective, you don't have to take it. It's just how, and what I'll do is I'll go back and sort of recap, and you'll see how there is a certain system that emerges here. What is my claim? Muzammil, what is my claim? What have I just said? What, sir? Right at the back, why are you asking me this question? Right? What I'm saying is that for anything, the test of anything international relations is that it must be reducible to at least one of these types of phenomena. If it's not reducible to one of these, then what you're dealing with is not an international phenomenon. Now, in IR, of course, you can study philosophy. Who's stopping you from studying philosophy, right? A lot of my colleagues do. No problems. But it's important to know that you're studying philosophy and not international relations. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay? Let's take examples of this. Interstate. India interacts with Pakistan, does not interact, so we'll leave that aside. India interacts with China, interstate. Perfectly legitimate, straightforward understanding of international relations. Interstate phenomenon. Phenomenon, something that exists in a world in which human beings are, world with which human beings are concerned with, and they can take cognizance of. Phenomenon, it must become a thing in the as a result of the application of our cognitive apparatus on something that exists outside. That's a phenomenon, right? You must be able to experience it. Interstate, interentity, India-China interactions, international relations. India-China interactions in light of US-China dynamics, fair point. Again, we are dealing with interstate relationship. State non-state relationship, right? If the United States government basically calls Infosys and says, boss, you better give more jobs to American nationals, otherwise we're going to be, scaling down your presence in the US. What you're looking at is an interaction between a state and a non-state actor, completely within the realm of international relations. Intra-non-state relations, non-state actors interacting with non-state actors. NVIDIA working with Apple to give you the phones on which you can rot your mind and while away your time and feel powerful every day because it's a dopamine rush, right? Every single time, those of you who are looking at, how many of you have looked at Instagram in the past 30 minutes? Tell me. Nobody? Seriously? Wonderful. WhatsApp. Professor, be honest. Yeah, you did, right? WhatsApp. Yeah? You see, you're already addicted. It is a consequence of international relations. NVIDIA worked with Apple to give you a phone which is so fast, it allows those reels to emerge, and we keep scrolling reel after reel, reel after reel. We get addicted. Each time that happens, there's a dopamine rush that sort of emerges, right? And we are addicted to it. And so when we are not looking at Instagram because taba, why should we do it in lecture, we open WhatsApp. कुछ तो मिल जाएगा वहां से, right? कुछ तो माल मिल जाएगा वहां से, right? Addiction produced by international relations. I'm not kidding. And I'll give you examples of precisely this kind of thinking going forwards in this thing, right? Now remember, all non-state actors' interaction in the international domain must necessarily be state mediated. Yeah? NVIDIA and Apple can't do anything without the United States mediating that relationship. All the same, the principal actors involved are non-state entities. So that's one type of phenomenon that we're dealing with. Students of international relations are students who very quietly speak into their phone and you know, with great deal of surreptitiousness. Students of international relations do worse. They're like, Professor, I will speak in my phone in front of you. You can do whatever you want to. Be bold, yeah. Come on, right? I feel like embarrassing students because that's another way. See, I'm embarrassing you. You feel embarrassed. You will not doze off to sleep. Others feel entertained, vicarious pleasure that they are getting. They feel very happy that they are not doing this, and so they also feel entertained, and they don't go off to sleep as well, right? So many people are laughing at the same time. So you know, you owe me chai at 5 p.m. Okay, so that's the first one. Transnationality. Transnational, you can replace national with with boundary. Each territorially organized political society will necessarily have a boundary. Yeah. Trans cuts across boundaries. Trans-Siberian Railway. Yeah. Trans-border. Any trans-border phenomenon is necessarily an international phenomenon. How? There is at least some phenomenon that is getting generated or it is undergoing some change as it crosses boundaries. Two classic examples of transboundary phenomenon: trade, migration. Push and pull factors, sociology, international relations, you're aware of push and pull factors, right? Drives migration. People are getting pushed out of certain places, they're getting pulled into certain places. And as they are doing it, they're necessarily crossing boundaries. Every single time you visit a foreign country, you are, even if you are in the middle of a sovereign territories, there's an airport, and what are you doing there? You are crossing the borders of that country. Every single time we travel, and every single time that we trade, we are engaging in transboundary activity. Each act of border crossing is an international act. And transboundary phenomena, if you're studying a transboundary phenomenon, if you're studying a transboundary phenomenon, you are dealing with international relations. The second thing, again remember, again Professor, why are you getting into all of this theory? When we do practice, we'll sort of do examples, I'll sort of, you know, take you back to some of this. Second thing, transboundary phenomenon. Third, hardest to grasp, okay? Now, what I want you to do, what's your name? Right, you're Arvind, no? No, Yes, no, Arvind is over there. What's your name? Divyaraj. And right next to Divyaraj is Manish. So Manish, you're with me? 100%. What did you have jalebi outside when we were having during tea? Did you have jalebi? You feeling very sweet right now? So be sweet to me and listen to me right now. Okay. Okay. How many of you are? How many of you think that you're good conceptually? Like you can think theoretically, you're good with abstraction and so on and so forth. Not going to do this in front of the professor, right? Because बेइज्जती तो नहीं करवानी है. कोशिश कीजिए. Try it. Be a good sport. It's fine. The best thing that you can do to, the best service that you can do to yourself is stand in front of a whole range of people and submit yourself to potential humiliation. It will get rid of your egos and it will make you a better person. So try and somebody. You're not going to be humiliated. Just try. Yes, try. So okay. So wait. So you think that you're theoretically okay, or you want to sort of? Wonderful. Okay. Okay. So tell me. Wonderful. So tell me what a system is. System is. No, I don't know. I'm just saying. So see, that's a problem, right? I'm so clear in my communication. All that I'm saying is, what is a system? You tell me what your brain tells you what system is. I'll tell you what an international system is later, right? So tell me what a system is. Okay. Yeah, finish. Yeah, go ahead. That's a system to you. So see, there's an organization, there is obligation, formal structure as well. So structure also, organization also, and within the organization and the structure, you have an obligation as well. What else? 3 elements of your system: organization, structure, obligation to follow. Oh, you see, she's inserted international into this. Okay, yeah. I'm not asking you an international relations question. Yeah, I'm asking a system question. Okay, system. Okay, yes. What's your name again? Sorry. What's your name again? No. Rifa. Okay. What's your name now? Ahmed. Yes. खड़े मत होइए यार, बैठ के बात कीजिए आराम से, relaxed. Yes. Yes. Any defined procedure, set of procedures, right? Okay. So a system involves, we just build the definition here. A system, so crowd work. Those of you who watch startup comedy, yeah, stand-up comedy. Sorry, they do crowd work, right? So we're doing intellectual crowd work here. So we'll work with this, Ahmed. So a system has a set of procedures, and the integrity of the system lies in the fact that those procedures are followed. Yeah, if those procedures are followed, then you have a system that is starts with F, ends with L. Functional. Yeah, of systems we ask whether they are functional or dysfunctional. Yeah, so procedure. So now what do we have? Boundary, organization, structure, obligation, procedures. Functioning. What else? Any other? Yes. What's your name? Firstly, what's your name? Zia. Tell me more. You just give me a word. Tell me what a system is. In a system, wonderful. Go ahead, go ahead. This is music to my ears. I'm not looking at WhatsApp, but I'm feeling good already. Yes, so. They are not just interacting, they are also interdependent, right? And they must be interacting according to a set procedure. And part of that procedure might involve obligations and following some things. Yeah. And a consequence of that would be, yes, sir. Input transformation process and output. Yes. Changes as well. Wonderful, right? Any other? Yes, you were saying something. Yes. No, right behind Rifa. Yes. I thought you were saying something. You were not. Okay. Any other? Yes. Regular and established interaction. Regularity. Established by procedure? Yeah, okay. Regularity, interaction. Anything else? Interdependence. In this country right now, executive is not dependent on anyone else. But anyway, बाहर मत बोलना. Yes. Cancel. Mute कर दीजिएगा. Yeah. Right, yeah. So, interdependence. Okay. Yes. No. Governance. Set of rules, governance, procedure, organization. We are on the same. Okay, excellent. Devraj. Divyaraj. Okay. So, role differentiation. Yeah. So, okay. Wonderful. There's so much theory happening here already. I'm looking forward to doing some theory work later with you. A system is an organized whole comprising units that are functionally related and that interact on the basis of the functions that they perform. Those functions, those interactions produce patterns, and those patterns have an effect on the whole. Yeah? Ahmed, Rifa, Divyaraj. आ गया सब कैप्चर हो गया ठीक है That's a system. I'll repeat. A system is an organized whole comprising actors, units that are functionally related, and they interact on the basis of the functional relationship. Those interactions produce patterns, and those patterns impact the whole. They have effects on the entirety of the system. That entirety on the entirety of the ecology within which this happens. That's a system. Okay, we good so far? Your name? I forgot your name. Zia. We good so far? Okay. Right next to Zia is Anam. Okay. Zia, sorry, Anam, we are good? Okay. Give me an example of an international system now. Organized whole comprising actors that are functionally related, they interact with each other, their interaction produces patterns, patterns have system-wide consequences for the entirety of the whole effects. Now give me an example of an international system. No, just give me one example and unpack it. So if you say BIMSTEC, tell me how BIMSTEC constitutes an international system. Give me an example of United Nations. Don't use big words, and I'm going to ask you what those big words mean. Rules, norms are big words. No, try. International, yeah, UN system. Okay. Which member country of the United Nations is following any norm? Please tell me. There is no proof of it, but anyway. Okay. Another crack at it. Somebody. International system, example of an international system? Anyone? International system. Bretton Woods institutions. IMF, unpack IMF for me. How is the IMF an international system? सिस्टम कहाँ है साहब इसके अंदर? Yes. Sorry. Okay. Any other? Just pay attention to the examples that are coming up, and we'll come to this in a bit because it's so important that we get this right. Good example, no problems. Again, who's good example? Another good. Any other international system? I mean, every single time somebody violates their visa rules, there's a waywardness, right? But I see your point. What's your name? Nishant. Nishant, would you want to sort of say that there is an international system of mobility, right, or an international mobility system? Would you say? Excellent. Any other examples? Global trade. You'll have to repeat the whole thing again. I got distracted. So you have a global trade system. Excellent. Any other example? International banking system. Okay. Yes. European Union. How is it an international system? Yes. 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 What are the patterns that the European Union is producing? Give me an example of a pattern. Okay. And that impacts the entirety of the European Union, right? So it has a system-wide impact. Okay. Now, you notice all the examples that we had so far. Can you identify common elements? They are related to. Are they really related to state actors? You see, BIMSTEC, United Nations, trade, European Union. Of course, more than one actors. You know, talking about international systems. So, please, yeah. You see, the moment we started thinking in terms of systems, we started thinking in terms of formal, more evident systems, formalized systems. You're talking about rules all the time. There are rules in all of the examples that you've given. They are all often codified rules. Yeah? And that is very good. But we need to do better. Can you think of an international system in which rules are not written down? Yes, you at the back. What's your name, firstly? Not Ahmed, behind you.
My name is
Binyamin. Okay, now tell me, give me an example of an international system in which rules are not written.
Yes, Marxist
Tell us more about the core periphery system. The third world countries are exploiting their own people also. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah. I agree. Core periphery system is a system that explains exploitation, economic exploitation, which is structural in nature, and there is a certain pattern of inflow and outflow. Great example, Benjamin. Any other example of that kind of sophistication? Yes.
Narcotics, illegal trade, illicit trade, arms, weapons, how they are, there is a set pattern, they are very functional. The way they
Set pattern, functional, excellent, right? An informal drug trade system, not written out, but it's sort of there. Excellent. Any other, but not the same nobility as as the one that he gave an example of, but very creative. Thank you. Any other, Ahmed?
Sir, norms of global norms of wealth. Sir, there is no as such norms given or defined, predefined, but they work and they have certain objectives and they work towards it to achieve it.
Okay, excellent. So dialogical system. Okay, international dialogical system. How is that a system? How is that a system? A system of intercultural adaptation. Wondering. But you have something there that's very interesting. Think of other examples. Yes, sir. What's your name firstly? Subhan. Okay. Okay. Capitalism. There. Capitalism is a system. Of course, no questions. Self-evident. Yes. International human rights. How is that a system? When at the heart of it is a very written document called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Please, yeah. Yeah. Tell me more. You know what? You know what the definition of sociological. You know what terrorism is, right? It's an act of violence that is simultaneously random and selective. Random from the point of view of the victim, selective from the point of view of the perpetrator. Yeah, there's great method to it. But I see your point. Tell me more. Yes. No, not you. Yes.
forceful implementation of democracy in the name of humanitarian intervention.
How is that a system?
Sir, just like in Libya, for example, in not only there will be the better governance in Libya and there will be a human rights and peace system.
One of the okay. So
And then one question sir, I have.
what's your name again?
Akram Raza.
Akram. So there are several elements to a system, right? A system must be a whole. It must have units. What are the units of your system? Let's try. We'll work together. What are the units of your system? Western governments, yeah, and let's say Libya. Okay. Now there is a relationship. There is a functional relationship, and what is the functional relationship? The Western governments are trying to shove democracy down the throat of Libya. So there's a functional relationship. It's a function of coercion, a really coercive relationship, right? But we need more. We need regularity. International system, no, 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 no. Now, my friend Suraj Yengde would say, hey, Atul, why you're saying that, caste is not an international system? We'll come to that later. But yeah, so tell me more. We'll build upon this, right? This is the point of our engagement, right? Let's build upon this. One example will not suffice, Akram. We need more. So they did that in Libya. Where else did they do it? I want, हम मुखातिब अकरम से हुए हैं, सवाल आप का जवाब आप दे रहे हैं. Yes. लिबिया की तरह कहाँ पे उन्होंने कुछ किया ऐसा? इराक में किया. और कहाँ किया? अच्छा, what is the broad type there? Intervention, Libya, intervention, Iraq. And what is the third place where they intervened? They intervened in Afghanistan, right? So that's the broad category, right? In all three cases, democracy promotion. Functional relationship, coercion, violence, and what is the pattern that got produced as a result? First, regime collapse, all three instances. And those patterns produced a system-wide effect. So the international system of democracy promotion had a system-wide effect. And what was that effect? What was the consequence of this democracy promotion business? Wait. We'll just finish this. The effect that it had was, firstly, it soured Western relationship with the Muslim countries. One impact. Second impact, it gave democracy bad name. Yeah. And thirdly, it soured the relationship between the West and the non-West more broadly. So that's the system. That's the system, right? You had an example as well. Please tell me. Regulation of international currency. Tell us more. Yeah. International monetary system, international currency system. Okay. Yes, you've not spoken at all. So one example, and then we'll move on. So a core periphery relationship that is unequal and so on and so forth. Wonderful. Are we out of time for this one, or we are okay? Because I realize an element of restlessness going on right now. 12, we are right now what, 12? Thank you. Okay. Okay. Yes. नेटवर्क ना, डोंट कॉल इट सिस्टम, नो बस यू कॉल इट नेटवर्क. चाय दे देंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा, इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं है. One, thank you so much. Right? Absolutely. The most, it's an extraordinary thing. Systems often in international relations get generated by virtue of interaction. And the hardest of the international system to grasp are the systems that are not developed, systems that emerge. What's your name again? Yeah, wonderful point. Chavez. Is that Hugo Chavez? Is it? No? Okay, Mohammed Chavez. Okay. So do you go CHA or do you go SHA? SHA. Okay. Chavez. Okay. I was like, okay, great. Right? So, excellent. International systems are often not willed. They are not deliberate. They often get generated. Can you give me an example of an international system that wasn't willed, that came into existence, and that had virtually all of the actors of international politics coming together, and if getting forged in an interactive in a functional relationship, and as they were interacting, there was a system-wide effect. Example. International trade system has rules, WTO, GATT. No. Excellent. The Cold War was a global system that no one anticipated. It organically emerged. And who drove the Cold War? Two great powers, superpowers. And what did the two superpowers do? They ended up creating these bounded orders. There was a Western order, there was a Soviet order, and within each order you had these tier 2 and tier 3 entities, and their interaction patterns had consequences for everyone, such that in JNU you have People's Publishing House, their bookstore there. What are they doing there? Result of Cold War. Sorry? Cold War, propaganda, whatever you want to call it, but that's a consequence of Cold War. A system-wide, international systems are often generative, they are not deliberative. You don't create them, they emerge. And one measure of how good our training is if we are able to pick up a system that is getting generated. And why will systems generate? Systems will generate because we need to have the namkeen. No, systems will generate because there is geopolitical multiplicity. Systems will generate because interaction will happen. And wherever interactions will happen, patterns will emerge. And those patterns will have consequences for all the actors that are involved in the interaction, but also the ones that have got nothing to do with the interactions. Have you read the Melian Dialogue? The Melian Dialogue? No? So you have, yeah? Tell us something about the Melian Dialogue. No, tell me what is going on in the Melian Dialogue. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But the argument is like is that there is no system as such, and Athens is not going to adhere to it, so it will conquer it.
Excellent. Excellent. You've read the Melian Dialogue. I'm so happy. No WhatsApp. I still feel very, my dopamine rush is right here. The Melian Dialogue. What happened to why are the Melians suffering? They are suffering because there is a great power system that is already in place. There are the Athenians are at war with the Spartans, yeah? And the Melians are like, bhai, hamare upar kyun barg giri? Right? Same thing, right? That is what happens when the big dogs are dog lovers here, dog lovers here, dog lovers here. Okay, I'm going to be, I'm politically completely incorrect. When the big dogs are fighting, the puppies are going to be like yelp, right? So that's what happened. Yelping for help, no help came. The Athenians not spoiled for everyone. Ukraine. What is going on with Ukraine? What happened to Ukraine? Got crushed, got crushed in the power politics between a resurgent Russia and a directionless West. They are at the receiving end of the great power political system. All of that, right? But broadly, illustratively speaking, the point we're trying to make is in international systems that are generated as opposed to deliberated into existence, in those systems, often the ones that are not party to the system, they get crushed as well, right? And it's these systems that are the loftiest examples of international systemic phenomena. One test I tell my students, that I'm beginning to train you, I'll train you for 4 years off and on, and by the end of the training, or rather, if at any point you're able to spot a generative system on your own, your training is beginning to come to an end, right? If you how many of you cannot ride a bicycle? Cannot ride a bicycle. Everyone can, right? Somebody taught you, right? Or you self-taught, but you must have fallen initially and then one day you started. How many of you swim? Yeah? Somebody taught you? Or you did it yourself and one fine day you started doing it, right? So there was a moment when that switch happened from when you were not able to swim to when you were able to swim. Your training, I tell my students, I'm not going to use it here because of course it's complex, but I tell my students, your training in the discipline of international relations will be complete the day you're able to see an international system that is emerging, that is getting generated, and you pick it on your own. Because you see, interstate dynamics straightforward, right? Morgenthau ने किताब लिख दी, politics among nations. Obviously, right here, right? Transboundary relationship. Everyone knows, crosses boundaries. It's the system part that is difficult. The easier things to do, which is what we do, so जहाँ system मिला, हम उसको पकड़ लेते हैं. So, a trade system, United Nations system, none of that is bad. I'm not criticizing you. What I'm saying is that this is how we start thinking about system. But the ambition ought to be, to pick up systems that are emergent. Okay. Now, how much time do you think we must have spent on the system part? Half an hour? Half an hour? Why did we do it? Why did we spend so much time on this particular thing? To see? No, but I'm not so elementary, yaar. Come on, I'm not like kindergarten. No, 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 no. Look at what is the purpose for which we are here? It is, of course, clearly, right? I mean, it's easy, but after a point it becomes easy in the same way that it is easy for Zia to swim. And shame on those of you who can't. Shame on myself also, I can't either. So, never going to travel on Titan. Never mind. Yeah, what's your name? Zubair. Zubair, right? Try harder. Why did we spend so much time on this? System. Okay, so tell me more. You recall? You know the song, right? वादियाँ मेरा दामन, रास्ते मेरी बाहें, जाओ मेरे सिवा तुम कहाँ जाओगे? That is international system. You can't run away from it, right? The problem is you have to learn to figure out where the wadi is and where the daman is. Yeah? Okay. Or rather rasta and you can, yeah, anyway. No. Why are we doing this? We are doing it because originality in scholarship will emerge only when we are able to see patterns that existing scholarship, for one reason or the other, has missed. This is straightforward. Anyone can do India-China relationship. Very easy. You see, you can't have a global south perspective on India-China relationship except to sort of say, oh, you know, they're both global south countries and so on and so forth. Fundamentally, they're playing power politics here. A realist will explain to you all the global south thing is nonsense. They're fundamentally power political actors. Not going to take you anywhere. Transboundary phenomenon, what can you do? Straightforward. No. System. Originality in scholarship. Serious originality in scholarship has got something to do with the ability to see patterns that others are not seeing. And all I wanted to do was to come to patterns, because interactions produce patterns. And in order to talk about patterns and to put you in touch with why patterns are important, I had to put together the scaffolding of the system. Originality in scholarship, I repeat, originality in scholarship is very centrally linked to the ability to detect patterns. And we see patterns on the basis of our conditioning, on the basis of our interests, on the basis of our identity. I repeat, we see patterns on the basis of our conditioning, our interests, our identity. It could be our individual interest, individual identity, individual conditioning. It could be our collective conditioning. It could be the conditioning of anyone who identifies with the non-West, anyone who identifies with, you know, at one point in the 19th century, the region in which Aligarh is located, what was it called? Administrative term for administrative British. Before that, this Awadh. No, this is not Awadh. You know, there's a in Pakistan there used to be a province. It was called Northwest Frontier Province. Yeah. Okay, look it up later. We'll you know, we are here for some time. What am I saying? No. Think of Calcutta. Think of the British. Think of them capturing this thing. In relation to Calcutta, where would this place be? To north and to west. Northwest provinces. That's the point I wanted to make to you. If we are serious, like serious about doing positive theory building, generating new knowledge, if we are really serious about it, we need to understand the patterns of contemporary international relations. And patterns we will find if we know how to look for them, not where to look for them. The where our conditioning, identity and interests will tell us. But to know that there are patterns that exist, how to locate patterns is a thing that theory helps us with. Interaction easy, transboundary easy, systemic most difficult, because patterns generate systems. Have you ever asked yourself, you know, the Americans, they have this, you know, Hollywood has this world savior fantasy, right? Aliens attacking, the American president has to take a decision and the world will be saved. They have Superman. What is going on there? Have you? No, I'm not wasting your time. I want to ask you a question. It's a very serious question. What's going on? How is it that the Americans are thinking about characters that are saving the world? And when we are thinking about international relations movies, we are thinking about airlift. Sorry? No, they feel their collective consciousness now encompasses the entirety of the globe. US is? It's not a narrative, it is a expression of the fact that they are in fact hegemonic. And you know who's now getting into that kind of a movie spirit? The Chinese are. And you know what the Chinese are doing? Chinese are, you know, the Americans used to tell us the aliens are coming, there is a asteroid here and we'll sort of, you know what the Chinese have done in one of their films? They've moved the entire Earth to another orbit. Ab batao ji. You know, you can do Hoover Dam, we'll do 3 gorges. And they are now tired of 3 gorges, so they now told government of India, boss, we are building a dam on Brahmaputra, and once we build that dam, it'll be the Maibap of all the dams, can do whatever you want to. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is a serious expansion of their collective consciousness, which has allowed them to almost at will, if they like, think about the world as a whole. We at it. You can figure out what you want to say. But that's the, if you actually want to think big picture, the point that Professor Beg was making in the morning, criticism is good, important. You should know that our ideas are not represented, our voices are not represented, our concepts are not there, our theories are not there. Fair enough. How are you going to build them? You're going to build them, and not just, and it's not enough to say this is my concept. These days, you know, Kautilya said this, Arthashastra may happened this, or Barani said this, or you know, some concept came from Aine-Akbari and so on. Fair enough, yeah. How will you get others interested in your concepts if you can't transcend your culture, your religion, your region? You can only do that if you are able to see wider patterns in the world, and the originality will come when those patterns are the ones that are a function of your interests, your identity, your conditioning. Your identity, your interests and your conditioning, they are gifts to you, they are gifts to us. Pattern recognition is the theory, is the gift of theory to us. Yeah, this is the most important thing from the point of view of our enterprise today. Can we stop here, or should we just continue? I'm happy to continue for some time. We can continue. I don't have a problem. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. IR's ontology, or geopolitical multiplicity, is a trans-historical and a trans-geographical social reality. Clinched? Yeah, covered? Please give me a thumbs up, like both of your thumbs, please, so that, sir, you as well. Yes, okay, so you know, everyone's out of there. Yes, okay, right? So this is clinched. Interactivity and relationality are core to human social reality. Clinched? Clinched? Okay. And the 3 types of international phenomena, interstate, transboundary and systemic, they are all obtained wherever space and whenever geopolitical multiplicity obtains. Clinched? Yes, no. यार हम स्विट्जरलैंड की बात कर रहे हैं और आप नैनीताल चले गए. No, India and Pakistan are interacting, except that the mode of interaction is violent currently. Of course, they are interacting. I was kidding. Yes, but not just interstate, regional systemic as well, and transboundary. Transboundary as well, and regional systemic as well. Illegal migration part I don't know, but refugees we'll talk about when we build theory. In the second half, when we build theory, we'll come to this. Yeah? Okay, just to give you an example. Give me an example of refugees or illegal migration. The Rohingyas, where do they start? Myanmar. And what is the route they take? Cox's Bazar and so on and so forth. And then they come here. And where are they found within the body politic of India? Dispersed. They're everywhere. Migration. Transboundary phenomenon? Transboundary phenomenon? Okay. Now, how do we as international relations scholars take interest in it? Somebody would say, oh, it's a human rights problem. It's a law problem, etc. It's an international relations problem as well. Why? Because if you want to do domestically, you know, it's a governance challenge, you will have to work with the Myanmaris, you'll have to work with the Bangladeshis. Yeah? That linkage is the linkage that is our domain. Very often what happens is that we take, you know, bleeding heart, right? Arey, bahut dard ho raha hai, poor refugees have come here. And we sort of, you know, IR people go into refugee studies and start talking about the human rights of the refugees. Bleeding heart is good, but it's important to understand what is the proper IR element there, analytically speaking. Yeah? It's not wrong to study other elements. It's not wrong to study. I'm not saying that it's not wrong, that it's wrong to study. It's not. But we ought to know what is the proper IR element dimension there. With India-Pakistan relationship as well, bilateral relations are downgraded. Sorry, diplomatic relations are downgraded. Political conversation is non-existent, but military channels are not shut. Right? So there is an interaction that is going on. And now remember, and now think about the systemic consequences of it. The fact that India and Pakistan are not at peace, it has had a direct casualty. And what is the casualty? The consequences of India and Pakistan being not at peace, it has taken a toll on what? Systemic. Systemic. Stability in South Asia. And forget about stability. Stability is a long shot. You know, basic level of trust is missing. The South Asian regional subsystem is fundamentally a function of the estrangement between India and Pakistan. Two actors, they have a relationship of estrangement. Their interaction is violent, it's contentious, and so on and so forth, and it has a effect on the. What have the Bhutanese done? Why shouldn't they not be, you know, reap the benefits of regional integration, or the Nepalese? But they are not. Why? Because the Indians and the Pakistanis can't get along, right? These guys are interacting. Effects are general. Yeah. Okay. So let's get back to this. Ontology, transhistorical, transgeographical, interactivity and relationality, core to human social reality, and the three types of phenomena we can be sure are found wherever and whenever geopolitical multiplicity exists. Okay. These are the fundamentals of IR. Agreed? And they illustrate its universality. They illustrate its universality. What is universal if it is not something that is innate to you? What is universal if it does not apply to all of human affairs? What is universal if it does not impact each one of us? Right? And the fundamentals of IR, interactivity, relationality, you know, the unpacking of geopolitical multiplicity, the fundamentals of IR are universal. And if the fundamentals of IR are universal, then I'm going to beg a following question to all of you. if the discipline's foundations are universally applicable and obtainable, then whose fault is it that the discipline is Eurocentric or Sinocentric or this centric or that centric? Is it the problem of the discipline, or is it the problem of its practitioners? Sorry. So, to say that the discipline is universal is to say that it must be universal in at least two ways, in terms of its applicability and in terms of its orientation. Right? Okay. In terms of its application, its concepts, theories, organizing questions, methodologies should be useful and illuminating for any international situation, regardless of geography, culture, religion, economic profile, or historical location. And we have established that the fundamentals of IR are universal in terms of their application. We've established this, right? Step by step, step by step, step by step. Arvind, we've done this, right? Establish kar diya humne. Zia will not sink now, right? We'll swim now. Yeah? Okay. I had a floating hope. Okay. Application is clear. In its application, IR is universal. Is it universal in its orientation? That's the problem. It must be open to say that IR must be universal in its orientation is to basically say this. I'm not very sure about it, but this is how tentatively how I'm thinking about it. It must be open to and it must reflect concepts, theories, and questions that stem from international experiences, regardless of their geography, culture, religion, economic profile, or historical location. IR is universal in its application. Is it universal in its orientation? To say, and this is important because you want to unpack the whole question of universality. Is it open to concepts, theories, and questions from international experiences, regardless of their geography, etc., right? Is it open? That's a question. I will tell you that the question itself is meaningless a little later, but I'm glad that you said no. Yeah? But I'll show you that that question is not a good question to ask. The second is, does it reflect? That is a good question to ask. Okay. The first is a matter of intellectually grasping an objective reality, and we've intellectually established that IR is universal in terms of its applicability. In terms of its orientation, I've said two things. The question of whether it is open or not to diversity, somebody said no. I'm going to say that that's a non-question. The question is, does it reflect that diversity? That is a genuine question. The second involves the question of ascertaining whether the discipline is open to and reflects the world's diversity. Here's the thing. Sir, at any point you want me to stop, I will stop. Okay. Okay. So I'll do intermission and keep everyone on tenterhooks with this. Okay. Is IR universal in its orientation? IR's ontology is universal. Clear हो गया? Clinch कर लिया हमने? ठीक है. WhatsApp पे मैसेज आया? क्या आया? बता दीजिए. Yeah? But it is a modern academic discipline. IR's ontology is universal, but it is a modern academic discipline. It's very important that we do this carefully. It is a result of self-conscious academic scholarship carried out in the modern period, mostly over the past century, in institutionalized spaces of knowledge and practice in universities, in governments, in research institutes and think tanks. IR जिस चीज को पढ़ना समझना चाहता है, जो उसकी दिक्कतें हैं, जिन दिक्कतों से वो जूझता है, those are universal. But IR itself as a discipline is a modern entity, right? The problems of physics existed before physics as an academic discipline existed, and it's so important to make that to remember that. It has obviously been shaped by real world material disparities, as Benjamin would say, core periphery dynamics that shape knowledge production. So if there is asymmetry in the world, that asymmetry will reflect in IR as well. Remember this. Why there is widespread perception that IR is exclusionary, white male centric, Eurocentric, falsely universal, inadequately unreflective and unrepresentative. You've come across this, right? यूरोसेंट्रिक है, वेस्टर्न सेंट्रिक है, वाइट मेल सेंट्रिक है, हमारे डाइवर्सिटी को एक्सप्रेस नहीं करता है, हमारे आइडियाज आते ही नहीं हैं, कोई कहता है कि वो चोला, whatever, you know, you've heard this, right? You have, right? Everyone's heard it? Yeah? Okay. How many of you agree with it? खुल के कर लीजिए, I'm politically incorrect, but that doesn't mean that you have to agree with me. Yeah? Okay, you agree with that? These are bold claims. Here's the thing, if you want to say that it is Eurocentric, you must first tell me what you mean by Eurocentric in the context of international relations. If you tell me that this is a white male centric discipline, you'll have to tell me what makes it a white male centric element, like where is the proof for it? Proof is obviously there, right? But point I'm trying to make is just a thing to remember. These are very bold claims to make. So we need very rigorous marshalling of analysis, marshalling and analysis of evidence. So we have to be very, very cautious. There is a problem there, but we need to be very cautious about how we formulate and express that problem. Prima facie, it does appear that IR is a Western Eurocentric discipline dominated by white men. A lot of them are dead. Prima facie evidence is there. How do we know? Our reading list. Let's just see if this is the case. Most scholars on our reading list, are they non-Western, Western? Our textbooks, how many of you have read The Globalization of World Politics? Yeah. Our concepts, deterrence, balance of power, this, that, etc. R2P, kahan hai pata nahi hai, genocide, anyway, not talk about it. The questions we ask, the questions also are coming from somewhere. Our methods, our leading journals, major conferences, professional societies, funding patterns, scholarly recognition. आप चाहे जितना अच्छा काम कर लीजिए, recognition नहीं मिलेगा आपको, right? So we know that all of these things prima facie appear to be true, right? All of these reflect the above elements and don't reflect the non-West in terms of ideas, people, organization, resources and recognition. Prima facie looks like it. I agree. This is a problem and it's an important problem. How do we address it? After lunch. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
As you talked about sir, as you talked about the so if this is the what is the epistemology?
Going to that, right?
No, it's okay, but I think we are confused because whatever skills, I think they are also the epistemology of IR. Ontology just talk about the discipline as well as the discipline, but whatever we have discussed so far, they were the sources of the IR, as per my understanding. Second is, you talked about geopolitical multiplicity. So basically from where you have taken this term, that it is the ontology of the discipline IR, and you use a term transnational. Okay. But there is another term as well, multinational. So why that term was missing?
So 3 questions. Maybe we are using the terms ontology. Okay, let's discuss it over lunch then. Thank you.